Hey, welcome back to Movie Recap Center. Today we're going to recap a 2020 movie titled Alone. Jessica is a woman who recently lost her husband, and the movie starts with her packing up her things and loading them into a trailer because she wants to leave town and start fresh somewhere else, far away from the painful memories, and she maps out a 4-day drive on her phone, hoping this trip will be the start of a new chapter in her life. At first, everything seems fine as she drives along the highway enjoying the scenery and the sense of freedom, but soon the peaceful journey turns. Unsettling when she ends up behind a black car that drives strangely. It keeps slowing down too much, and when Jessica tries to pass, it suddenly speeds up to block her, and when she pushes harder on the gas to get around it, the driver mirrors her speed, so she's stuck in the wrong lane with a huge truck barreling toward her. Her heart races, but she manages to swerve and get in front of the black car just seconds before disaster. For a moment, she feels relief, but then the black car speeds up, behind her honking aggressively. Eventually, they part ways at a junction, and Jessica pulls over to catch her breath, shaken but glad she survived. Later that evening, she stops at a gas station to refuel while talking on the phone with her father. From their chat, we learn she isn't really on good terms with her mother, even though her dad encourages her to make peace. While she talks, she suddenly notices that same black car pulling into the station, which makes her uneasy, and before long the driver leaves quickly, leaving her spooked. After this, she decides to stay overnight at a motel to recover from the stressful day. Inside her room, she avoids her mother's call, then looks at old photos of herself and her late husband. Memories hit her hard, and she cries quietly before drifting to sleep. In the morning, as she gets ready to head out, a man with his arm in a cast approaches her outside the motel. She's startled when he introduces himself as the driver of the black car from before. He apologizes for what happened on the road, claiming he was distracted by texting and didn't mean to scare her. But then he starts asking personal questions like where she's from and where she's going, which makes Jessica very uncomfortable. So she politely excuses herself and leaves quickly. Soon she's back on the road driving through forest highways when she suddenly sees the same man again. This time he's standing by his black car in the middle of the road, claiming it broke down. Jessica instantly feels on edge. She locks her doors and only cracks her window. The man asks her for a ride to a gas station, but she refuses and says she'll send help instead. When he insists, she panics and floors the gas pedal, speeding away from him. That night at another gas station, she takes a call from her upset mother, who's angry she left without telling the family. Jessica says she just needs to move on from her grief. But while talking, she spots the black car again pulling in. Terrified, she hurries to her vehicle, and just as the man approaches, she drives away. But another van blocks her, trapping her briefly until the van moves and she escapes. Realizing she's definitely being stalked, Jessica calls 911 in a panic, but when the operator asks her location, she can't give clear details. And while she's talking, the black car suddenly zooms past her and disappears into the night. Embarrassed, she tells the dispatcher it must have been a mistake and hangs up, but soon after she loses control and crashes because her trailer's tire bursts. As she's trying to check the damage, the black car appears again and the man rushes at her. Jessica unhooks her trailer to escape, but before she can drive off, he smashes her window, overpowers her, and injects her with a sedative. When she wakes up, she finds herself locked in a strange dark room with barred windows and barbed wire outside. Terrified, she realizes she's been kidnapped. The man appears later, smug and creepy, ignoring her, begging and calmly ordering her to stay quiet. At night, he comes in with a flashlight, grinning in a disturbing way. When she offers him money to let her go, he only chuckles and says she's not the first to offer that, confirming he's done this before. A predator who has likely killed others. He makes lewd suggestions and tries to intimidate her by playing videos of her and her late husband from her own device, mocking her pain and even forcing her to talk about how her husband killed himself, tormenting her emotionally as well as physically. Jessica knows she has to escape. The next day, she notices the key to the door stuck in the lock on the outside. Using a nail she pried loose, she cleverly pushes the key onto her jacket and slides it back inside. Unlocking the door, she hides in the closet just as the man returns home with groceries, listening in terror as he takes a call from his young daughter, speaking sweetly to her and lying that he's away on a business trip. The twisted double life shocks Jessica. Once he goes downstairs, she seizes her chance and slips out of the house, running into the forest, The man quickly realizes she's gone and chases after her. Jessica limps on after injuring her foot on a branch. Desperate, she wades into a rushing river, letting the current carry her away. While the killer is right behind her, she survives and drags herself onto the opposite shore. Wandering through the woods injured but determined, when she hears footsteps, she strikes out. In fear only to hit an elderly hunter by mistake. She apologizes and begs for help. The kind man gives her boots and food and takes her toward his truck, but the road is blocked by a fallen tree, and right then the kidnapper shows up, trying to convince the hunter that Jessica is his mentally unstable sister. For a moment, the hunter is unsure, but when he notices the man's rough handling of Jessica, he pulls out his rifle and demands he back off. Jessica uses the moment to flee, but tragically, the killer later attacks the hunter, beating and shooting him dead, stealing his rifle. Jessica, meanwhile, hides in the woods as a storm rages. The killer stalks her with a flashlight, taunting her and even giving her 2 hours to come out or bleed to death from a gunshot wound he inflicts on her leg. He cruelly mocks her dead husband, calling him a coward, trying to break her spirit. But Jessica stays hidden, refusing to give in. Eventually, the killer gives up and leaves. She spends the night shivering outside. In the morning, she stumbles across the killer burying the hunter's body. She sneaks into his car and finds his phone, but before she can escape, he returns. She arms herself with a wrench and calls 911, but stays silent to avoid being caught. The man realizes his phone is missing, stops the car, and Jessica attacks, leading to a violent struggle inside the moving vehicle. They crash hard, but both survive. Jessica manages to crawl out, sees a rescue helicopter in the distance, and forces herself to keep going even though she's weak and hurt. The killer, however, is still alive. When Jessica gets hold of his phone again, she calls his wife and exposes the truth, telling her that her husband is not on a trip, but is a murderer, and that if she dies, it will be because of him. This rattles the killer, but makes him furious too, and he smashes the call. Then he and Jessica face each other one last time in a brutal showdown. He uses a knife, but Jessica fights back with the wrench. Both injured and exhausted, she bites him, stabs him, and finally drives the weapon deep into his stomach, making sure he can't get up again. Finally, she collapses, battered and drained, as the helicopter circles back and spots her, signaling that at last she will be rescued after this nightmare. And the film ends with her surviving the ordeal after fighting with everything she had against a relentless predator.